Hello friends, this is Aubrey from Crybaby Settlement on Homestead, and I'm here to talk to you about trying to grow some green cardamom seed from an Asian grocery store. So as you can see, this is a very expensive spice, $60 per pound. So I got obviously less than a pound, and I paid $10.50. And I've looked at some videos online to see how they might grow. And as you know, I've been scammed before. So I'm going to try it out. And apparently it takes 20 to 30 days or longer for them to sprout. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and then I'm going to update it and put it all together as one video. So you can see here I paid $10.50, and I got this tray of cardamom seed pods. And the seed inside is apparently the spice. It's much too rich, like for my taste, and as in too expensive. I've never tried cardamom before, but one of the things I do is I will grow something myself, and then I make it more reasonable. You can see here the store I got it from, and you could probably find green cardamom at most Asian groceries. I have found it multiple times before with the idea that I would do this, and now I'm actually going to try. So I'm going to start off by taking the seeds out of the seed pods, and I'm just going to crack each one and pull the seeds out. I lined my tray, which is just a plastic lid, with paper towels so that I don't lose them into the crevices, and then I have a place to kind of collect them and collect the seed chaff. I will be using the seed chaff in my composting, and I like to compost in place. So give me a couple minutes, and then I'm going to crack open all of these seed pods and collect the seeds. So as you're taking the cardamom seeds out of the pods, it helps to start with the pointiest end and kind of crack it and peel it back. And as you do, you'll see the seeds inside. And sometimes they kind of clump together, so if you just kind of rub them, then they come apart like this. You can see some seeds look a lot more fresh than others, so I doubt that these light tan ones will be viable, but I have nothing to lose by just planting them in the soil to see if they do or not. I doubt it, but these dark ones probably are viable. I'm not sure what the germination rate will be, but we'll give it a try. So again, I start with the pointy end. That's the easiest way to crack it with your nails. And then I can just kind of pull one piece back to reveal the seeds inside. And they do kind of clump together. Okay. It's going to sound kind of gross, but when they first come out, it almost looks like rodent poop or something. TMI. But as you roll it together in your fingers, the seeds kind of separate. So we'll see if these are viable. It's worth trying, to me anyways. I read online that fresh seed is required, and a lot of sources say not to try growing it from the store because it's supposedly treated with something. However, this is also a food, so how much it could be treated and still be food safe, I'm not sure. So I will definitely try this and see if they germinate. Cardamom seeds are expensive, and for $10.50, this could potentially be a lot of seeds in here. And so I'll be back with you, and I'll show you how it goes. So as I've been breaking apart these seed pods, my nails and fingertips got kind of tired. So I decided to use some scissors, and all I'm doing is snipping a little bit at an angle of the sharp side, kind of on the margins. So each of the seed pods has kind of a triangular shape, and I'm just kind of snipping, not very deep because I don't want to cut into the seed, snipping a little bit so that I can grab onto the edge and pull it off, and that's working a lot better. So if you have any trouble with breaking it apart yourself, you can use scissors. Just be careful not to cut too deep because you will cut into the seed. And this is what I mean when I say that I think the cardamom seeds, when you take it out of the pod, sometimes they clump together and they literally look like a mouse turd or something. It looks so gross. But if you just rub the seed in your hand, it does break apart because there's more than one seed here and they're just stuck together. So you take them apart like that. Just kind of roll them in your hands. It's like they have like a little sticky pulp stuck to them. It's keeping them stuck together. But they are seeds, obviously. You know what they are because you're taking them out of the pod. But it does give you a second look. You're like, what? What is that? All right, I'm going to keep at it. So I'm going to take the sticker that says what it is on here, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of this little styrofoam tray so I don't forget what it is, because I'm going to go ahead and soak it, and that way it doesn't get thrown out on accident by anyone in my household. And I just want to say again how citrusy and lemony this smells. The cardamom just smells very, very fragrant. I love it already. So I'm going to go ahead and put some water on this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add water to this. And I always let my water sit out overnight so that I don't have strong chemicals. And I've seen a lot of people using damp paper towel, but I like to soak my seeds for at least several hours. Especially those that say that they should be planted fresh, and if they're on a little bit of the dry side, this kind of seems to revive them. So I'm going to let these sit for several hours. So already, as soon as I added the water, I can see that a lot of the chaff that I missed and some seeds that are not viable are floating. Some people say that all seeds that float are not viable, and that is certainly not true. However, I'm going to make an educated guess and say that I think the ones that are floating for this particular type are probably not viable, because the resources I read online said that the fresh seeds are the only ones that will sprout. So I'm going to go ahead and use a fork and just scoop out. And I have a little paper towel next to my tray, the styrofoam tray. And I'm just going to use the fork to strain out the extra stuff. And the reason I'm doing this is because this material could rot or mold when I am trying to sprout the seeds, especially since these seeds take so long to germinate. And I might end up getting a few viable seeds in here, but I will use this to mulch around some of my indoor houseplants. So there's always an off chance that they'll sprout in other containers, and I really don't care. But this way, I am getting more of just the viable seeds. And you can see the ones that have sunk down to the bottom. Those are more likely to be more viable. So I'm just using a fork to separate out the chaff and the seeds that I think probably are not going to be viable. It's kind of satisfying, actually. So there's still a little bit of chaff and material that's floating, but not so much that I think it would affect the plants when they start to grow. And if anyone's like, oh, there's a lot in there, I actually took a lot out. So this was all the floating material that I could get out with a fork. And I'm going to let the rest of the material soak for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to plant it. All right, guys, hang in there. I'm going to get you an update pretty soon. As I've been kind of picking through this floating material, I do think there are some viable seeds, and I kind of like felt them with my fingers, the little black seeds in there. I think those are viable. So even though they're floating, I'm still going to try planting them. I think I'm going to do them in a separate container. That way I can do a test of, these are the floaters and the other ones are the sinkers, and see if the floaters also sprout. I don't think the ones that are like tan or white, I think those are bad. But the ones that are dark black, I believe are viable. Okay. The rest of the material in there looks like chaff from the seed pods. So I'm going to try planting the stuff that I removed, and I'm going to do like a side-by-side comparison. So it's a true experiment. Okay, so I have prepared 2 containers here with peat moss. Don't judge me. Be warned. Don't judge. You can use cocoa coir or peat moss. You can use soil too, but since they are going to have to be in the soil for so long before they germinate, I want to make sure that nothing gets to them and that they don't have a chance to rot. So I am using a little bit of peat moss, and after this experiment is done and I transfer them into their own little pots, if it works, then I'm going to use this to mulch around and incorporate into the soil around my blueberry plants. So nothing will go to waste. I really repurpose everything. So a lot of people are freaked out about peat moss and sustainability that goes along with how peat moss is harvested and used. But I barely use any, so that should not be any kind of issue. I really saturated the water, or I really saturated the material, the medium, with water, and I used water that had been setting overnight like I always do. And there is kind of a layer of liquid underneath, and the peat moss is kind of floating, which is fine, because I'm not going to slosh it around or anything like that. And whenever I need to, I will go ahead and vent the containers so that they can kind of breathe a little bit. But I don't want these to dry out whatsoever. And I did read about cardamom, and that one of the number one reasons why people failed was because they let their seedlings dry out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start transferring over the seeds. For small projects like this, a kitchen fork works really well. I'm going to go ahead and take all of this seed material along with a little bit of chaff that's mixed in, and I'm going to just spread it evenly on top of this container right here. So here you can see I've spread the seeds out along with a little bit of chaff, which shouldn't hurt anything. I've spread it out all over the container, and this is just a repurposed container, salad container from Dairy Queen. These work really well for seed starting. Now I'm going to get ready to start putting over the ones that were floaters. I'm going to put them into this cup. Okay, so I went ahead and I spread the stuff that was floating, which includes a lot of chaff, but quite a few seeds as well. So these were the floaters, and these were the ones that were sinking. So we're doing a side-by-side comparison to see if any of the floaters actually sprout, and in comparison with those that were sinking. There are a lot more that were sinking, so it's not going to be like a number comparison. Just basically the rule. Does sinking or floating mean that cardamom seeds are viable or not viable? So I'm just looking for an absolute rule. Is it absolute, or are there exceptions? Do some seeds float for cardamom and some seeds sink, and can both be viable? So we're going to do a side-by-side comparison, and we'll check back later. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover up these seeds with some more of the peat moss, and I'm just going to do a very thin layer on top. So now I've spread some more peat moss on top of all of the seeds in both containers, and since it's so dry, I'm going to take a moment or two, and I'm going to moisten this peat moss. Stay with me. All right, and I'm back. I went ahead and put the lid on both containers, and that one has a hole, so I'm going to just cover it up. And the lights, I have grow lights above. That is not necessary right now because plants don't need sunlight usually until they've sprouted, because photosynthesis occurs when they have chlorophyll and chloroplasts to conduct photosynthesis, to get energy. But right now, all the energy they need is actually in the seed embryo. So once they've sprouted, then I'm going to start using the grow lights. Right now, I only have them up for the video. So I'm going to turn the grow lights off. And I do have a heat mat underneath because these plants do like warm weather. What I read was under 45 degrees kills cardamom. And so I'm going to infer that some nice warm soil would help them to germinate. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to turn off the grow lights. So it may be a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks before I get back to you on how they sprout and grow. Please hit subscribe and hit the bell notification so that when I do that update video, you will be on the list and you will see that updated video. It will be a lot shorter than this one, and it'll just show you like how much they've progressed and a side-by-side comparison to see if the seeds that were floating, if they also germinate or not. All right, everybody. God bless and live long and prosper. Make sure you subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.